But how did I finally get clarity on my creative calling? Well, it's actually still in process. But I think at the end of the day, I chose my thing and decided to stick with it. Welcome to the Creatively by Estelle podcast. My name is Estelle Averi and I'm your host. This show is for creative and performing artists, and this is your space to feel creative, to feel inspired and motivated every single week, and to be given tactical tips and tools for you to reach your creative goals and fulfill your purpose as a creative person. You are welcome here. Let's get into the episode. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for being here this morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to this. And thank you for, listening and for being here and for supporting this show. I really appreciate it. Um, I'm back at my mic. I'm back in my usual place, done traveling, done with vacation. It was a great vacation. We went and celebrated my parents' wedding anniversary. We'd postponed the trip that was supposed to be in 2020 because of COVID. We postponed it, and it was such a fun trip with family and friends and loved ones. And I'm so glad that we got to do it. And now I'm back. I'm back behind the mic, um, and feeling good and glad to be back. So I hope you enjoyed the past couple episodes that I recorded on my phone, but I'm definitely glad to be back. And so yeah, today I actually wanted to start with the review because I realized that I've been behind on reading reviews, and now we have 11 reviews and ratings, which I'm really excited about and grateful for. So I'm going to just continue to keep going through them. And so for the review today, it is a review by Lyrics Show. The title is Great Content, and the rating was 5 stars. And this is my friend Larry who wrote this actually. And he wrote, always love listening to her show. Lots of great content on here. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I love doing the show. So I'm glad that you love listening. And hopefully, we can just grow in providing great content here. And, just that's why I love um, telling you to share with me what your thoughts are because that way I can know like what content you want to hear more of, right? And like what you're more interested in hearing moving forward. So yeah, like always feel free to leave a review or to DM me on Instagram at Estelle Avberry or to email me. All the information is usually in the show notes. So always feel free to reach out and to let me know what you think, or if you have any other questions or any topics that you'd like to delve into further. And I would love that feedback because then I get to produce hopefully even more great content on here. So thank you so much for that review. I'm going to keep reading reviews at the beginning of my solo episodes. Um, that way, I'll be able to share what you guys are sharing, and hopefully that encourages you, and also to, just share with everyone what's going well. And that way, I'll be able to continue to grow and share even better content on the podcast. So, yeah, awesome. Well, for today's episode, I'm going to be talking about dealing with confusion or uncertainty about your creative thing or your creative calling or your creative passion to focus on in this season of creativity, right? Wherever you are on your creative journey, whether you're just beginning or you're in the process, but maybe you're having some trouble focusing or figuring out what your specific thing is that you should be focusing on. I have been there. I definitely understand. And it's something that I think is still an ongoing process for me, but I do have a lot more clarity than I used to have. So, and this is something that's been like years in the making. So I feel like I just want to share some things that I've learned on my journey so far, and hopefully that will help you, right? And anyone who knows me really well knows that my journey with uncertainty it's been a journey, right? And it's been ongoing, just trying to clarify what to focus on creatively. And like I've had a lot of different interests and passions, which is good, but it's always good to try to like narrow in for different seasons at a time what you want to focus on so that you can really grow in that. And yes, so it's been a journey and it's still a journey, I guess, but because that's life. But at the same time, where I am now is not the same as where I was when I started trying to figure out what my creative calling is or what my creative focus would be. And I think that we all want to know what our thing is, what makes us special, unique, what we can focus all of our attention on. And of course, we're all special because we're all unique humans made in God's image, but we also have unique giftings that God has given us that He wants us to lean into, right? And I was always curious about what my thing, quote unquote, would be. From an early age, I was always drawn to the arts, so I knew it would be something creative. And I also knew that because my parents are compassionate healthcare professionals, I knew I wanted to help people and serve people, and they're also entrepreneurs, so I knew that I would love to do something in the entrepreneurial space as well. And that's about it. That's all that I knew really for a while. And it started with my love for fashion, actually, because I really loved fashion and style. So I started blogging in college, fashion blogging. I felt like it was like I was like, "Yes, this is what I need to do to start with," and I'm so glad that I did, and I'm glad that I listened to that, like, whisper that I felt like God put in my spirit at that time, because I loved performing as well, but I didn't know how good I could be in it. I doubted my experience, I doubted my training. I just wasn't really focused on it that much, even though I was continuing to sing and continuing to find opportunities to perform. My focus was really on fashion for a while. And I thought that that would be kind of my creative outlet forever, really. I thought that would be my main creative outlet. But so that changed, right? And now it's really is performing arts and inspiring other artists through the podcasts, through social media, right? Sharing singing and performing and musical theater, and also sharing my love for creativity with other people, right? So it took me some time to get more clarity on my creative calling and not to be like, okay, I'm in fashion, but then I'm also love singing and then dancing and then like all these other things. But now I have more of a cohesive idea of what my creative passion is. So, how did I finally get clarity on my creative calling? Well, it's actually still in process, but I think at the end of the day, I chose my thing and decided to stick with it. And I have 7 steps as to how I did this, just to try to put everything into a concise, um, digestible process, I guess. I tried to like narrow everything down into 7 steps, 7 things that I did to and continue to do to really focus in on and clarify what God has called me to do creatively in this season. So, the first thing that I would say is asking God, right? So, how did I choose my creative calling and choose my creative focus on my creative passion? It started with asking God, right? So for me, that meant prayer, fasting, meditating on the word of God, pleading. Sometimes it was like pleading, like, God, please help me. I don't know what to focus on because I feel like I'm all over the place. That really was what it was for some time. Journaling, all of that for years. Like, I mean, I really was interested in because I wanted to figure out like my career and vocation, but more than that, I wanted something that was really purposeful. And so I started thinking about this honestly, like back in high school. But I really was very focused on like, I'm going to figure it out by the grace of God, especially at the beginning of college. So I would say, like, at least for the past, at least 6 or so years, that this has been a journey of that started with asking God. That was really the number one thing is going to God, like with prayer and studying the word of God and trying to figure out like what God says about giftings in the word of God in the Bible. What does he say about gifting and how you should focus on your gifts and things like that. And just really spending time in God's presence, getting to know him better, not just so that I could have answers, although sometimes I really was just like, look, God, I want answers, right? That's just surreal. Okay. That's the reality. But also just spending time with him just to get to know him more. And I think over time, as I got to know him more, I got more comfortable in hearing his voice and hearing what he was like drawing me to, or like, and eventually he started to really be like, I remember one thing that he told me was that the thing that you're trying to figure out, like the thing that you want to know what it is I'm calling you to do creatively, it's been staring at you this whole time. Like it's just been right in front of your face and you just haven't taken it seriously. And that's when I realized that it was in the performing arts, because it's something that I'd been doing my whole life, but I hadn't really put my focus on it, I hadn't really focused on it because my focus had been fashion and like writing and style, blogging and all of that, which is great. But it wasn't like, even though I was doing it, I knew it wasn't going to be something that I would find fulfilling for a long time personally. And so, yeah, it was really through that asking God process that started everything. So I think that was the number one thing. The second thing that I did, and again, I'll get to this at the end, but I continue to do this. The second thing that I did was asking people that I trust. So it started with family and friends, godly counsel, mentors, and observing what people came to me for. So, like, first starting with looking to God, and then it kind of started with looking to other people. Like, okay, what do my friends say? Like, they, see in me? What do my family say that they see in me? What do people come to me for? And looking back on it, I would realize that, people would always ask me in church, like, okay, Estelle, choreograph this dance for the kids, direct this show in church, sing this solo in school and church and and different choirs that I was in. Even in college, I sang a solo in my college choir, right? Share your ideas with us because you're creative, like you're the creative person in the group. Share your ideas, right? Lead this vocal warm up, and lead this. I was asked to lead a choir in my in college, like in my campus ministry there, because I was a leader in the worship band, and then I got to start a gospel choir there as well. And it was not something that I came up with on my own. So it was, like being just observing what people would ask me to do, to would ask me to do. They would ask me to write things like write this for me because you can write, right? Or edit this for me, right? And so I think just observing what people came to me for and also asking genuinely, like, I want to know, like, what do you think are some of my strengths and what do you think are some of my talents from your perspective? Asking people around you is something that I think you can definitely do to really focus in on, not only what do I love to do, but what are people asking of me, right? Because then you get to experience that really fulfilling part of walking in your creative passion, which is using your creative gift to serve others. And that's really so fulfilling. And that is really where you're going to find a lot of your joy in using your creative gifts is in how you share it with other people and how other people respond to it. So yeah, the second thing was definitely asking people that I trust. Asking people I trust. It doesn't have to be everyone, maybe just a select few people who you think know you very well, but yeah, ask. The third thing that I did was exploration. And this goes back to the fact that I was style blogging and I was singing in worship band and I was, I went on auditions in college too, for different shows, just sporadically. I sang at open mic nights, right? So I was just trying things. I was taking action. I was putting myself out there online, writing the blog and styling and all this stuff. And I wrote for an online publication at my school as well, like a fashion publication as well. And I was just trying things and exploring, and because of that, I, like, was like, "Oh, okay, I like this," but, like, it's not, like, everything, but it was really fun, and I'm glad that I did it. I got it on my system, and now I'm good, and that is kinda what happened for me with style blogging and with fashion writing. I loved it, and it was so fun, but I was like afterwards, I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm good, like, I don't really need to do it again." So, it was that exploration and actually, like, taking small steps of action, some smaller, some bigger, right? That helped me to be like, okay, this is what I like. This is what I'm not loving that much, but I'm glad that I tried it. Same thing. I also did that with like when I was pre med in college, so I took all these classes and realized what I didn't like and what I did like, and more the things that I liked were more pertaining to my major, and my temporary minor as a music minor, right? And so like those things, that was good feedback too, because I was like, okay, this is what I like, this is what I'm not so in love with, right? I also volunteered at like a health clinic for some time in school as well. And so and I did a research internship and a psych research study. And like all of these things were just good experiences that helped me see what I don't like and what I do like, and what I am good at and what I'm not good at, and what I have, where my weaknesses are, where my strengths are. So that exploration piece was really important. And it was hard. And like it's hard because you're like, you want to know your thing right now and you want to like put all your attention into it, but sometimes you have to try things, different things, variety of things to know what you do or do not like. And knowing what you don't want to do is almost as important as knowing what you do want to do. So I would say the number three thing that I did was exploration, which was really important. The fourth thing that I did was getting feedback. And again, I continue to do this, is getting feedback, even with this podcast, right? I'm always asking for your feedback, to leave a review, to DM me what you think. On social media, I'm always asking for feedback, like asking questions like, what do you think about this, right? So getting feedback is really important, I think, especially as an artist. Like you definitely want to, when you share your work, you definitely want to have like maybe some people that, maybe not every single person, because you don't want, everyone can be a critic, right? But you want people that you trust who can be honest with you, but also aren't coming from a place of just judgment, but are coming from a place of genuine love for you and wanting you to get better, right? Getting feedback from those people is really important. And getting feedback from yourself too, which I'll get to in a second, but like also being like, okay, what worked and what didn't work, right? But getting feedback, if you try something, for instance, when I was, helping in the health clinic, for instance, or I was working at my research internship, I could ask my supervisors, right? The people who are above me, like, what do I need? What worked? What didn't work? Like, where do I need to grow in? Where do I need to work on? Same thing, like when because I was a voice minor, I took voice lessons every week. And I would ask my voice teachers, like, where do I need to grow? What do I need to work on? And they gave me feedback all the time, which is great. And that helped me a lot to grow. And like they would, tell me what I need to practice, throughout the week before my next class, right? Before my next training. And so, yeah, getting feedback is really important when you're exploring. Don't just, try things and take action, but see if you can ask people what they think of the action that you've taken, people who you can trust, people who have your best interests in mind, and get that feedback for them. It might be hard to get that feedback from them, and it might be hard, but it's so important for your growth and for your continual for your continual like narrowing down of what's going to work for you. Because if you're getting the same feedback and it's not so great, then maybe you, and at the same time you're not really loving it, then that's probably a sign that maybe there's something that I can tweak here, maybe there's something else that I need to focus on. Doesn't mean that you should just quit because of negative feedback, but it definitely can help you figure out what's working and what isn't working ultimately. So getting feedback, and that relates to the next point, which is number five, having self-awareness. And this is hard but essential, right? Like, for instance, I love fashion, but I was not a designer. I'm not a designer. And maybe I could be if I worked hard, but it's like, it, as much as I loved fashion and writing and about it and style blogging, it just didn't hold my attention for long enough and consistently enough. And I didn't see as much of my own personal natural skill in that area. Although, like, I was good at writing, like, I have an eye for style, like, and I knew that, but I knew that, and I knew I could get better, but I also knew that I think I had stronger natural talents and interests in other things, more related to performing arts as opposed to visual arts. So I realized that, and I just had to be self-aware about that and know that, yeah, like it's okay. Like it's honestly okay. You can still love those things, but if those things aren't really holding your attention for long enough, or maybe you don't have as much of a skill in that, and you decide that you just want to do that on the side or just enjoy that on the side, then that's absolutely okay too. And I realized that. And that's where that self-awareness piece comes in. So self-awareness It's basically kind of like reflecting on your own, on the action that you've taken, on what you've done. And it relates to getting feedback because it's kind of like giving feedback to yourself and being like, okay, this worked, this did not work. Right. And yeah, so that's number 5. And I did that a lot. I did that through journaling a lot as well and reflecting. And again, spending time in prayer and being like, okay, this is what I like. But this is not working in this area. So how can, what can be tweaked? And yeah, so that self awareness kind of goes back to spending time with God, goes back to getting feedback, and that relates to a lot of the other points that I've said. And the number 6 thing that I did was I decided to make a choice. I just made a choice at the end of the day. Like I said, like I felt God being like, the creative focus that you have been looking for is something that's always been there and you just haven't been aware. And then I finally was like, okay, let's again be self-aware. Like what are the things that I love to do, that I'm good at, that people have asked me to do, right? And that's when I decided, I was like, okay, I'm making a choice. Like after, and this happened like near the end of my, like right before I graduated from college, that I was really doing this very specific like reflection with God. And I made a decision. I was like, okay, like I'm going to wrap up my blog. I'm going to wrap up my style blog and kind of transition it into not a style blog. And I kind of transitioned it to just like general blogging about life and lifestyle type and spiritual, like faith things as well, and creative exploration. So it was kind of in, it was kind of like in an in between place for a while before I finally completely finished it and then switched over to podcasting about creativity and the performing arts. So yeah, that's how I made that choice. So yeah, the number 6 thing that I did was to make a choice, was to make a decision and stick with it. And that's something that I didn't like. I think I did it in one instance, yes, but it took time for it to actually come to play. Like I decided that I was like, yeah, it's definitely the performing arts for me. Like it's singing, it's performing, and I started like sharing singing more on my Instagram and on social media, and I stopped doing fashion blogging really. But like it took some time for me to really settle into the choice. Like you can make the choice, but then eventually it takes some time sometimes for that choice to really settle and for you to like really go all in. So yeah, give yourself grace with that. But yeah, you have to kind of make a decision once you've gone through all of this. And then the 7th thing is to repeat, right? So like I said, everything is in process and it's a continual journey, focusing and refocusing on the creative gifting that God has given you, because we get distracted really easily, right? We have shiny object syndrome, right? If you ever heard of that. The idea that like you know, you there's like something else going on. You're like, oh, that looks cool. That looks interesting. And that's something that I think we all experience as creatives. And especially because a lot of us are multi passionate, we have other interests, multiple things that we are good at or that we can apply our creativity to. But it's really important to repeat this process of refocusing, re-clarifying. Okay, this is what the creative gift that God has given me, that I know that I'm called to focus on in this season, and this is what I'm going to do. And so just repeat. Going back to number 1, asking God. Number 2, asking people I trust, checking in with people around me, like what are they asking me for? What are they coming to me to do for them? Number 3, exploration. Trying, okay, yes, I'm getting a little bit distracted. Maybe I can try like one small thing in this area of distraction, but I'm still going to make sure that I'm focusing on my number 1 thing. Um, or even like trying new things within the realm of your focus of your creative passion, and like trying new things to hopefully maybe that'll like kind of refocus you on what you love to do and like what your creative gift is, if you're just like trying new things within that, right, as opposed to doing the same things that you've been doing. I don't know, that's just it, that's just a thought that came to me. But that's the number 3 thing, is exploration. Number 4, getting feedback. Continue to get feedback on what you're doing, on the creative work that you're doing. Number 5, self-awareness. Continue to reflect what's going well, what's working, what isn't working, what do I need to grow in, what do I need to work on. And then number 6, make that choice again. Decide, okay, I'm recommitting. Like, this is what I know God has called me to do. I've asked Him, I've talked to people that I trust, I've tried different things, I've gotten the feedback, I've reflected and become more self-aware, and I'm making this choice. Once again, this is what I'm focusing on creatively in this season of my life. And then number 7, repeat, repeat as needed. And just continue to, again, go back to asking God, go back to talking to the people that you love and that you trust, and continue this process. And I think that this is what has really helped me to choose my creative gift, like not choose my creative gift because I like obviously God is the one who gave that to me, who gives that to all of us. But I think to really clarify and to focus in on how I can use that in this season. And so, yeah, I think that that's really helped me to get clarity on my creative gifting and focus in on what my passion is creatively and how I can use that in this season. So I hope that helps you, as you if you're in a place of kind of like uncertainty, or you're feeling a bit confused, or maybe you're feeling a bit distracted and you need help refocusing, this should help. I really do believe it'll help because it's helped me and it's what I continue to do. This is how I deal with confusion about my creative calling and my creative passion. So hopefully this helps you. Let me know if it does. Leave a review. DM me on Instagram at Estelle F. Berry. I'd love to hear from you. But genuinely, like, leaving a review helps so much, because, and a rating as well, because it will help to like boost this podcast, boost this show, and show it to more people so that more creatives, more aspiring artists can hear this show and be inspired and be helped and get all this tactical advice and hear all these incredible people who are doing these interviews, who I'm doing these interviews with. So you're leaving us literally taking 30 seconds to leave a review and rating is so, so helpful. And it's such a wonderful way to just give back and help grow this community. So if you love this community, if you love this podcast, I would love for you to do that for me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here at all. I know you have so many things that you could be doing. So I'm so grateful that you're listening at all. Genuinely, I appreciate it. And I hope that you have an amazing week. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Creatively by Estelle. I hope you feel encouraged by today's episode as you start this week. And if you have a moment, I would love for you to just share this episode with a friend if you liked it, or with someone who you think this could be encouraging to. It would really help this show. Also, if you really loved this episode, if you wouldn't mind going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a review and rating this show, it would really help us reach more people through this show and grow our Creatively community. All right, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.